Good morning. Una, are you still there? Hmm. Now, good morning. We have a lot of people in the room now. I see Anne, Breda, Elizabeth, Gillian, Sean, Guillaume, Usha, Mike, Linda, Danny, Ariane, Erica, and Noreen. Now, I have just been chatting to Una for the last number of about 15 minutes, and it looks like something happened on the entry. Una, you can't hear me. Um, I am just going to eject. Oh, she's found out herself. She'll be back in a second, so don't worry. Mike and Guillaume, I see you both there on the chat. Welcome to both of you, and good morning to everybody here with us today. And we're really looking forward to this workshop with Una. Una is a absolute expert and is so passionate about personality testings, emotional intelligence, and her presentation is fantastic. And I think everybody is going to be amazed and wowed by what the information that she gives us here today. So it's absolutely lashing rain here in Dublin. So maybe pop into the chat, tell us where you are and what you're hoping to get out of this call, I suppose, today. I have just started a poll just so that we can get an indication of the people who are on the call right now. And have you ever taken a psychometric assessment before? So I suppose that'll give us a bit of a gauge, and for Una's perspective, who we have on the call and what levels we have. So let me just see, is anybody else? Anne, how are you? I see you popped in there. Let me see. Claire, I see, and Breffney, how are you? Sean, I'm not sure if I read you out earlier on. And we're still going to have people popping in. So yeah, Una is going to be back in 2 minutes. So not sure what happened with her camera. Same thing happened yesterday, actually. To those of you who were on the call yesterday, my sound went when we came into the room for some reason. And now Una's camera. So she'll be with us in a few minutes. But for those of you who've just joined, we're running a poll. Have you ever taken a psychometric assessment before? So at the moment, we have 63% of people haven't, and 36% of people have. So I think for those of you, and we're gone up to 66% of people haven't. So for those of you who haven't, I think it's going to be really interesting. Now, just give me 1 second, and I just come back to Una. Now, let's see who else has come in to join us. Just for anyone who's come in, Una was bumped out of the room for some reason when we went into the live room, even though I was chatting to her for a few minutes. So just bear with us now for a second. Catherine, good morning. I see you there. Linda, how are you? Debs, good morning to you. I think my mind memory is doing pretty good with remembering all those names popping in now. Just give me 2 minutes and I'll try and get Una sorted and back into the room. I'm not really sure. Oh, here we go. Una, there you go. Hi.
Good morning. I had to go back into the link. Apologies.
No problem. I was keeping everybody entertained here while you were away. And we have the results of our poll in, which has changed a bit. So 57% of people have not taken psychometric testing before, and 42% of people have. So that's a nice balance. Una, you're frozen. I'm not sure now if it's you or me. Make sure if anybody can pop into the chat there if it's Una who's frozen and you can all hear me.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now, Una. Okay. That's probably your connection isn't the best. Maybe if somebody tells us in chat, because I suppose where people are based around the country will have an impact. So,
I think okay. It looks my Wi-Fi looks
good
okay.
stuff. Okay, so it's 10:05. We're 10:05, so let's start. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sorka Finucane, and I'm the owner and founder of Trained In. We are absolutely delighted to be here today to welcome Una McGoey from A New Change, who's going to take us through personality types and for greater communication. This is part of the Taste for Success bite-sized upskilling workshops, and we're running 60 of them between the 18th of August and the 18th of December. So we're running 3 every week, and every third week we're running 4. So if anybody wants to be included in a regular timetable, just pop me an email and we can let you know when anything is coming up. I will pop into the chat towards the end the registration dates for the upcoming webinars for the rest of this week and for next week. I am also going to share with you now, before we move on, you don't have to fill it out now, but the Taste for Success learner profile. So anybody who hasn't completed the learner profile in the last couple of days, I'll pop the link in, and it's important for Skillnet that you complete this. But before we carry on, Una, we're delighted to have you here this morning, and we're really looking forward to your presentation. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to learn today.
Okay, so today I'm just going to cover off on a high level DISC, personality profiling, and how it affects when you know and understand your preference, how you communicate, and it helps with relationships and work at home, and overall then team and building teams in the workplace. So it's a really useful tool.
Fantastic. And I've seen some of your presentations before on different topics. And I know, especially for people who haven't done psychometric testing before, it's so interesting and eye-opening. And it's great for your own self-awareness, how something like this can have an immediate impact on your daily, I suppose, not just professional life, but personal life as well, just about personalities and how people communicate. Yeah.
It's like you know, how you get a reaction from some people and a complete opposite reaction from others. And it's understanding how you react as well to different situations. And I think that's important as well, not just how other people react, but where it's coming from you. And I know personality is just a huge area, and there's so much other stuff feeding into it, you know, your awareness, your values, your, you know, what value do you have, you know, what drives you, your motivation. But the DISC is a really good foundation and understanding of what motivates you and why, you know, you do what you do or say what you say, or, you know, react how you react and your different behaviors. And it really leads into, you know, the fundamentals of emotional intelligence. And, you know, so it's a start of understanding yourself.
Great. And I know it's a topic that you yourself are really passionate about as well, and very well versed in at the same time. So before we start your presentation, just to let everybody know a little bit of housekeeping. We can't see you and we can't hear you. So please make use of Una's time here. Pick her brain, pop your questions, observations and comments into the chat and let us know what you're thinking and feeling. I know Una is going to be asking you some questions throughout. We're going to be running some more polls throughout, and I think she has a little competition as well. So we will start off your presentation now, Una. I'm going to turn off my camera, but I will still be here in the background. So when you need something, you just shout.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Sorka. Okay, so I'm delighted to be here, enhancing your communication skills and the power of personality. So we're just going to start off here with employee engagement. And this can be used for a lot of things. Like, have you managed a team before? And sometimes there's a lot of egos and trying to manage them. But for the sake of today, with employee engagement, I'd like to look through DISC through the lens of work. Okay, so, but you can use DISC for family, for friends, for teams. So it's just a matter of, today we'll just look through the work lens. So there's usually three types of employees: the engaged, not engaged, and actively disengaged. So, and not engaged means that, you know, there could be a lot of reasons why people are not engaged in work. They keep themselves to themselves, they're under the radar, they might be new to the company, they may not be clear in the role, or they're afraid to make a mistake, they could have a lot of fear, or they may be just coasting in the job and then they're actively disengaged. And this is where actively disengaged, how, you know, high absenteeism work, how people feel bad for doing a good job, they want to slow people down. So the actively disengaged is where we need to be concerned about in the workplace. So I think there's a poll there, Circa, if I'm right. Maybe not.
There is, Una, I'm just going to start that for you now. So this is what percentage of communication is verbal?
No, I thought, sorry, okay, maybe no, we'll keep going here. Okay, so disengaged employees, there's a massive 52% of disengaged employees. And this was taken from HR.com, and it's huge, incredible figure. But DISC helps to understand the model of behavior. It's not just what motivates different people, it's to unlock the potential. You know, it's what drives people and what motivates people, how you can change. Like some people feel, you know, they want praise, they want to feel secure. You understand people now, you know, with DISC, instead of, you know, trying to, it just takes it an awful lot easier to understand people quicker. Okay. The poll then is next. We'll talk about communication. So this is enable motivated matrix. So some people, you can see the top performers, and this is where we want to look at in the workplace. So they're highly motivated and they're highly able. Now, some people might find that, you know, if they're new to a job, they might be, you know, motivated, but they may not be able. So that's a training issue. So we just need to have a look at the top performers, but you can see where people are lower motivated and they're well able, and this is the problem area we need to look at, and this helps uncover all this. And I suppose with communication, it's the question of not do we communicate, it's actually, are we communicating effectively, and how do we communicate effectively with people, with staff, with teammates, with at home. So it's this will help unlock it. So I think we have the poll launched now, Circa, on communication. No. Okay.
It's up there now, Una.
Okay, great. I'll just go into it here. So what percentage of communication is verbal, do we think?
This one is one that always surprises me, and you know what? I've done it a couple of times, and I still can't remember the answer. But it's fascinating. I remember the first time I did this poll, and the answer was just amazing, really. Won't be giving anything away.
So we're going to just talk about the rule of personal communication. And there's studies that came up with the communication rule, and it shows that we finished the poll. Okay, so that's interesting. So you can see there 66%, 7%, 13%, 6%. So you can see there 7% is verbal and 93% is actually non-verbal. So it's broken down into 55% we use our body language and 38% is tone of voice. So you can see how 7%, what we say, at 55% is the body language. And I suppose communication is, when I talk about communication, we talk about empathy a lot in workplace. And I don't mean empathy as in sympathy, feeling sorry for people. Empathy is an understanding of how we communicate, how the other person, what they're going through. And part of empathy is active listening. So how do we listen to our colleagues, to our team members, to our staff? Are we actively listening, or are we waiting to respond back to them? Are we waiting to jump in? Are we waiting to interrupt? So the active listening is so important in helping with communication. The second part is curiosity, asking questions, being open, being curious about what the other person is saying, not, as I said before, jumping in, coming up with a solution, just asking them. And then the third part is emotional connection. So being connected, as in leaning forward, looking, eye contact, understanding that the person was walking away to say, I was the only person in that room that they spoke to. I feel great. I felt listened to. I felt understood. So how we communicate will, it's just such a huge part in relationship. And you can see how 7% is only verbal. Okay, so this slide I've just put in because everyone has different, like there's the presenter up there and she thinks she's communicating very, very effectively. How other personalities react, like there's another person, slow down, too much information. So we all react in different ways. Another person thinking, oh, we're going to have fun today. I need more information. And then other people are saying, come on, speed it up, move it on. So everyone is so different, and it's how we adapt to their personality. And this is what we'll talk about. And DISC, what does it mean? Where did it come from? Well, William Marsden came up with this in the 1920s. And what he did was observe a lot of people's, behaviors. And this is where it came from. Dominance, D, I, influence, S, steadiness, and C, compliance. A drive, inspiring, corrective, and correct. Okay. And this is the behavior model for DISC. And as you can see, it's in 4 quadrants. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit about this here is, so you've got the D and the I of the top quadrant, if you can see. So these people are outgoing. And the bottom then, the C and the S's, they're more reserved. So the outgoing would be fast-paced people, optimistic, energetic. They're very much involved, very positive and enthusiastic. Now, I'll just say here, and I'll just stop and say, there's not one right or wrong preference in the DISC. You might be, a high D, but you might have some I and S in it. And I'm going to break it down now and go through each one. So as I said, the D's and the I's are outgoing, the reserved, the C's and the S's. And what does reserved? They're slower paced, they're cautious, very careful, very thoughtful as well, and critical thinkers. And they're very much reflective. So they reflect on a lot. So they think before they speak. Whereas the outgoing people, the D's and the I's, might speak and then think about what they said. And then we have on the left-hand side is the task versus people. And the task are the D's and the C's. So you could be, task could be procedures, any plans that you make, very much process-driven people, projects. They're really driven to projects. And then the people are on the I and the S. And these people are rational and they're caring and they're sharing and emotional. Okay, so that's the kind of the high level breakdown of outgoing, reserved, task and people. Okay, so you could see where there is possible of stresses. Okay, so the D's and the C's would be focused on getting the task done. And then the I's and the S's would be focused on the opinion and how others feel. So what I'd always say is when you wake up in the morning, what do you think of? Do you think of your projects, your to-do list, or do you think of how other people are feeling? And this will help you, I suppose, see what area you fit into or what, the D's and the C's or the I's and the S's. Okay, so we'll just move on then to the D's and look a little bit more what a D personality preference is. So the D's are very much dominant, driven, very direct people, very decisive, could be demanding, very like they're determined to get things done, and they're doers. And it's really good to have the D's in the workplace. I suppose one of the greatest fears of a D is failure. Actually, they're just a huge fear of failure or being taken advantage of. So you can see the D's are very outgoing and task orientated. So if they're very hard to give praise. They find it very hard, because if they feel as if they're going to give praise, that you might take your foot off the pedal and not produce enough and work. And the fear of being taken advantage of, if you ask for, let's say, a day off or something happens, they'll feel very much exposed and vulnerable. So that's one of the greatest fears of the D's. They're very much motivated by power and authority. They love to be in charge. They're natural leaders. And their method of control would be just do it. Like they're a force of character in an organization. They just want to do it. But their value as well, they've a really good value for in an organization, and that is the drive for results. They want to get the job done. They want to see the figures. They want to, they're driven by results. So that's the D's. And we're going to move on to the I's now. And as you can see as well on the quadrant, they're outgoing, but they're also people orientated. Okay, so the I's would be very influential people, very informal, and they're very much interactive. As I said, they're interested in people. The I's come up with all the great creative ideas. They may not actually follow through with them, but come up with all the ideas. They're very much impulsive. They're interactive, as I mentioned. They're impressionable, and they're very much imaginative. So they do come up with the creative ideas, but whether they follow through. Their greatest fears in the I's would be loss of popularity. So if they thought that they weren't popular in work, that would be a huge fear. Theirs or social rejection if they weren't picked for something. So they are motivated by praise and recognition, and they're very much fun, and they just love the fun and having the crack. They're controlled by their verbal persuasion. So they're really good persuading people, getting teams together, getting everyone. So they're really good to have on a team. They're hugely influenced, and they can generate a lot of enthusiasm in a team, and in a workplace or in a business. So they're really, interested in people. They're high energy, really into fun, and they're really good to have, upbeat to have in the team. Okay, so we'll move then to the next part is the S's, and we're moving into the reserved area here. So this is people and reserved. So the S's are very stable and steady people. They're very, in the workplace, they're extremely supportive. They're very sensitive, and they would be very sentimental. Now, one of the biggest areas with the S's would be seeking security and the status quo. So change is a big area here, and losing change and rapid change. And I suppose the last few months would have been very tough on some S's in organizations, working from home, trying to adapt. Job security is very much important to. So the greatest fears on the S's would be the loss of security and making change for the sake of change. Rapid change would be a big, fear for the S's. As I said before, they are motivated by security, and peace and harmony, very, very important for S's. And their method of control, when they control things, or they try to control things, is slowing things down. So they want to, instead of, if they're thinking of doing something, it's not, they won't jump into it. They'll slow everything down. They'll reflect, whatever, So, and their value to the organization, they would have a team mentality, very much look after people and get people together. So you really, to get the S's on your team is very important, for the team morale as well. And they're a very loyal group of people. Okay, so the C's, we're moving in then to the reserved and the task. And the C's would very much be very compliant group. They would be cautious, very careful, and very correct. They're very confident, and they would be consistent in what they do in their work, very much conscientious. So you can just imagine the types of people that would be in this group, if you can spot them in your organization or your team or even at home. And their greatest fears would be criticism without proof or confrontation. So, you know, if you're going to go to them with some criticism, you'd want to have a filing cabinet, you know, as big as, you know, you want to have your proof. They don't like confrontation. They love systems, procedures, quality answers to questions. They are to do with data, facts, and information. That's their method of control. But to an organization, they're hugely, you know, with their quality and their they ensure quality in an organization or a business, and they're very much compliant, hugely compliant. So that's the overall behavior model, and I know that went through very quickly, but it's just a high level of what each preference. I suppose it's what their style is. As I said before, you know, everyone has, you don't have one, you're not all in one. It's you would have a preference for one. And it would be just good to just think about even family, friends, it doesn't have to be work, where they sit, or can you see anyone in that? Okay, so we'll just move on to the next. Okay, so I put this in. I think there was a poll there, Circa again, I'm not sure.
I have that that poll is running at the moment, Una. So what preference would refer to we need to feel safe during COVID-19?
Okay, brilliant.
And I have D, I, S, and C as the options that are up.
Okay, I just can't see it now. Oh, I do see it now. Perfect. Yeah, I just have to scroll down. Okay. And you can see that there. So I just wanted to talk briefly about the COVID-19, and I just did this disc up, and you can see where it's not just on lockdown, it's for, you know, when you're working from home or when you're not, you can see the different preferences. So you can, the D's would come up and say, let's get a plan together and implement it. The I's would be, it's a difficult time, but we'll get through it together. The S's, they're very worried. It's the security again. And then the C's, we need to follow government advice. And then the D's will be realistic. You know, they're very direct, very straightforward. There'll be deaths, but we'll follow the guidelines set out by the government. And the I's, take a look at the video, put a photo up, smile, let's hook up and Zoom. The S's then, what if this is the end of the world? What will happen to our jobs, families? And then the C's, I've done a lot of research and there's a lot of articles and I'm happy to share them with you. So you can see the different, how people react, different personalities. The D's will beat this, the I's, we're in it together, the S's, we need to feel safe, and then the C's, we need to stick to the facts. So the S's, we need to feel safe.
I have two comments there on the chat, Una. One is from Guillaume, who just said it would be interesting to get some questions on how to know which kind of group we are. I suppose based on Una's explanation of what the different letters mean, what do you on the call feel, what group that you're in? So you can either pop it into the chat there, or use the poll, I suppose, Una, in answer to that question. Yeah. So how do you feel based on Una's explanation of the disc? How do you feel your personality would have fit into that? So you can answer in the poll there. There's D, I, S, and C. And somebody had asked a question there. Noreen had asked Una just previously, I didn't want to interrupt you, when was the survey done in terms of the communication, the verbal and non-verbal communication?
That was the HR.com. Was that the one?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Slides and see.
Is that an old one?
Sorry, no, that's not. That was the that wasn't it. That was the verbal communication. I'll send you the link for that. Oh, for that, I just don't have the link for that at the moment. I can send that on. That's no problem. Just what I just want to I suppose follow up on this. When people are working from home, one of the you can see the task focus versus the people focused. If you're managing a team, or you can look at the task focus. Maybe they just want an email to say what my to-do list is or what I need to do, but the eyes would need to see your face, have a chat, engage. So it's very important, I suppose, to when you're managing a team remotely, or when you're engaging or you have team members remotely, to understand how they like to be communicated. And that would be a good example. The task focus might just be happy enough with an email every day or every Friday, or whatever way you communicate. And then the people focus would like to see your face. They would like to engage. It's important for them to be able to see you on camera. So that's just something to be aware of as well when we are.
Yeah, it's really important. You definitely lose that kind of creative element that you would have gotten in a community or in an office when you're working at home, because you're not going to be connected with everybody for the entire day. You're only connected in the morning or in the afternoon or on whatever daily meeting you have. So, which is tough. It is tough.
I think with the masks now, and we spoke about communication, I think eye contact is so important now. And non-verbal, as in your hands, or you're nodding, or because when we can't see from here down, it's so important with communication that people are felt understood. So it's the leaning forward, or it's the nodding the head, or it's the acknowledgement. But eye contact is hugely important with communication as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I'm just looking at the poll results there. So there's 25% of people on the call are D. So let's plan and together and implement it. 16% of people are I. It's a difficult time, but we'll get through it together. And 58% of people are S. We need to follow government advice.
Okay. We've no C's.
No. Well, that's good that we've no C's, I suppose. So at least there's nobody freaking out at the moment, which is good.
Okay.
It's changing again now. So we've 21% I and 46% S, but still no C's.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. And the S is
Is that kind of what you expected, or is it hard to expect something?
Yeah, some people, find it hard with, especially the D's, to say, hands up. There's no right or wrong, as I said, and people, you can go between them all. Let's say I'm D-I-N-S, so I would go whatever preference, but it depends on what I could understand. People, I could move into that people scheme, and then I can move down into the S's, but I'm aware when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
But my natural is the D.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong.
Yeah, because you're not just one, you can be a mix of a few, isn't that right? Well, one will be your predominant personality. Yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose the D preference in lockdown, they feel like a caged animal sometimes, what I mean? Don't feel challenged. And the I's would be just want to party and get out and have a good time, and the Zoom and the Skype is very important with them. The S's, then they just want to be surrounded by slow things down. They just want to be surrounded by security and know that everyone is happy, and that everyone is okay and they're all right to speak. And then C's, it's like they're very much logical, and you know what's wrong with some people. You know, they probably have their day planned out and their times and everything. You know, so it's during lockdown it was, or during, you know, when you're working from home, it's looking at the different. You can understand now how people react and how people, you know, even from the lockdown stage, you know, how people adapted much better than others.
And does this play a part in somebody's if they're extrovert or introvert as well?
Yeah, it could do. You can see outgoing versus reserved, and that's
Yeah.
probably outgoing would be the extroversion versus you know, introversion would be more reserved.
Okay.
So generally, the extrovert are, you know, the D's and the I's, and the introvert are the C's and the S's.
Great. Right. I'll turn my camera off and let you get back to your presentation, Una.
This is just a little bit of fun here in the next poll. What do you think these famous faces, the D, I, S, C, and we have it here. Have we the poll?
There, yeah. I presume everybody knows who they are as well.
So Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, Alan Sugar, and we've Piers Morgan. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Would you know which preference each one has?
So I suppose the question to the people on the call is, what personalities are these people? G, I, S, or C? So we've given you a number of different answers, and it's up to you to pick the right one.
Can't see that. Yeah, some people are very much, you can see it straight away, and other people it's not. So
should you do a really quick rundown of the D, I, S, and C again, just so to refresh people's minds?
The D, yeah, the direct, driven, decisive, demanding, determined. That's the D's. The I's would be impulsive and influential and informal and, you know, imaginative and interested in people. The S's would be more supportive and I suppose they love the status quo and the security, and they're very stable and very steady. And then the C's, as I mentioned before, they're conscientious and they're very much correct, careful, and compliant. So that would be an overview of the DISC. So Michelle Obama, will we start here? Will I?
Yeah.
Go ahead. So Michelle would be an I.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton would be a C. And Alan Sugar would be a D. And Piers Morgan as well would be a D.
And 57% of people on the call got that right.
Very good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Brilliant. Very good. That's so you can see now which the D versus the C. And you can see how that went. And we'll probably see how that goes in November as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to finish off by showing on the part, and you can have this as a PDF. It's within the when you do the 17-page report, there's communication tips, and you can see there that's one page of it, and it's very much tailored to your preference when you do the psychometric testing. There's a description, there's an overview, your personality styles, you know, general characteristics, the value to the team you're, any challenging areas, and areas that you'd like to develop. So it's a really in-depth, I suppose, report that each person does. I think there was another mention earlier on about teams and the graphics. So you could see if you were in a team of, let's say, 10 or 15 people in a pod or in a team, you can see who and the different types of personalities within that team. And, you know, if you've too many, let's say, compliant and C's and, you know, too many C's in the group, you need more people orientated, they're more tasks, so they're not interacting as well as maybe the I's. If you need to introduce an I to that. So it's really important to get the right person in the right role, and it's to understand that and understand your team and their strengths and their motivations. Because, you know, as I was saying before, it costs so much, you know, for an organization to employ somebody new, you know, that they're actually saving money if they understand their strengths and what motivates their employees, and if they're in the right job and right role. And people are much more happier than when they are looking at their motivations and they're working with their strengths. And then, you know, they can develop then their weakness, you know, their whatever they need to development needs, then they can look at that to help. But this is a really good for the team to understand who is in your team as well, and to understand that. So I think, Sorcha, if there's any questions then on any of what I mentioned, as I said, it was a very high level. I go into much more, obviously, detail, and there's much more, you know, huge amount of, there's graphs and everything to decipher. There's, if you're a high D or a low D, you know, there's different observable behaviors there. Like the high D, let's say, for they're probably running on a tight schedule. They can try to be dominant or take over, and it may interrupt you while they're talking, and the very direct communication style. So the high I's then would be very much enthusiastic. As I mentioned before, they'd have friendly, well, not handshakes anymore, but the very friendly greeting, very positive and optimistic. But then again, they might be very unorganized and disorganized and untidy, you know, so they're the high, you know, preferences. And the high S's would be always look for a kind of democratic solution, the very visual, and the, as I said before, the reluctant for change, and the need time to adjust to change. I think that's very important with the S's, to understand that, you know, change doesn't come natural. And then the high observer behaviors in the C's, the very quiet, could be polite, they're diplomatic, they're very much prepared, they're very much organized, and they're on time, they're not hurried, and they love the, as I said, the facts, the rules, the regulations. So that's just like a high, I suppose, overview of the behaviors in different areas. And I hope you can see, people can see themselves in whatever area or preference they are, can see their family and their friends and their teammates, and that'll help with their communication and improve the relationships.
They'll all be going home analysing their friends and family later on, going, oh, I wonder what you were. So I think, does anybody have any questions for Una? Please use her time now, because she is here. I know, Una, when you do your testing, that there is like a one-on-one with people after it to go through the report.
Yeah, we go through it page by page and understanding, and then do out, it's nearly like a plan then, and ask them, coaching, you know, what areas they'd like to develop, what areas, you know, so it's a really 1 hour debrief based on the report and what's coming up.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's hugely interesting, and especially when we're working remotely, to understand, it's the understanding of yourself and how you're perceived, but also the understanding of your team and what they need and how they need to communicate. Yeah, which is really important. For anybody who's interested in further training or consultancy with Una in terms of personality profiling within your own organization, as a group or individual, you can pop me an email at sorcha@trainedin.ie, or contact Breda at Taste for Success. So it's info@tasteforsuccess.ie, and I've popped your email into the chat there. And I've also just popped up all of the upcoming webinars over the next few days. So tomorrow we've sales with Anne Conlon, And then we've better coping skills with Seamus Power on Friday, confidence in presenting with Brian Barry on Tuesday, project management on Wednesday with Brian Clear, and authentic influence and persuasion with Simon Haig on Thursday. So another great upcoming lot of workshops for you. I don't have any more questions there, Una. I think we answered them all as we went throughout the presentation. What kind of questions, just kind of coming back to Guillaume's question there, what kind of questions would he, as a manager, for example, what should he ask his own group to find out what kind of personalities they are, if he was doing his own little analysis, shall we say?
Well, I suppose it's understanding what they prefer, how they prefer. You can, I think the big one is the task versus people. So it's the task. You can understand, would you prefer that emailed, or would you prefer that, would you prefer a Zoom call? That's the first thing. Or how do you, so that would be a big, how do you communicate? Is it, via person, or do you prefer, and then you could decipher and understand that way. So it's, and then it's the other introvert versus extrovert then as well. People have different, I suppose, learning and prefer learning as well. So, the kinesthetic, the visual, and the auditory, and understanding that as well. But communicating with people, it's I suppose it's trying to understand where they're coming from. And once you can identify that, it's much easier.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I think there's no questions coming forward, so I've popped everybody the SkillNet Learner profile into the chat there, so you can click on it now. It'll bring you to another window, and you can complete that for the team in Taste of Success. And other than that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. It's been fantastic having you here again, and really insightful and interesting. I always find the personality profiling presentations really interesting, and it's another way of looking at things, and can be hugely beneficial to business, especially in these crazy times. So I think we'll leave it there, and thank you again. Thanks everybody for attending, and I see all the thanks coming in there now. Thanks for a great session. Thanks for Mike, and we will see you all soon, or hopefully on one of our upcoming workshops. Have a great day, and talk to you all soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Erica.